That's good. I think we're waiting on one more. Is John coming from our UCI team?
I'm going to put you on mute for just a second. I did see, Maria, I saw your email or your Slack message as well. I'm going to go ahead and respond to that as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you. And Shreya said she wasn't going to be able to make it tonight, correct? We're just waiting on John, perhaps.
Haven't heard anything about John.
Gary, when you go over the survey results, do you want to share your screen?
Yeah, I was planning on doing that.
I'm not going to pull up the agenda just yet. We can just jump into yours and then do the design brief. What do you think? Get started?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we just have 2 items tonight, so it should be a relatively quick one. The first, Gary will present the results of a survey we did. And I'll let him go ahead and jump into that. And then of the design brief that nails down a lot of what we'll be doing moving forward. So take it away, Gary.
Okay. This is my first time sharing, so bear with me. Can you see my screen?
Thinking about it. Yes, now I can.
Okay. Yep, I see it as well.
Okay, so I created a dashboard to summarize some of the important parts of the survey we put together a couple weeks ago. And so just to give some background on the users represented here, we created another survey that did not ask whether the parent had a child in the hospital. And that was to be able to get more responses. So what we're looking at represents 18 users, and we asked them to focus or to think about their child's favorite digital platform. So all the questions were surrounding that. And the 6 graphs we see here, these are where we ask the user to rate potential parental controls or features. And so based off of how these were rated, we wanted to use this as the basis for what we focus on in our design for a parent experience for Zot. So I'll walk through these quickly. So the graphs are all in the same format. It asks the parent to rate how important they would find a particular parental control feature in their child's favorite platform. And if it didn't exist, we asked them to imagine how important would it be if it did exist. And the scale is a 5-point scale from, on the left, not at all important, moving right to slightly important, moderately important, very important, and extremely important. And I also broke down the responses by the child's age, and that's what the color represents. So orange is 2 to 6 years old, red is 7 to 13, blue 14 to 17, and green 18 plus. And so for our purposes, I think that the age range from 2 to 6 and 7 to 13 are probably pretty important to Zot. So I think those 2 colors, orange and red, will be pretty important for us.
Can you walk me through what each of these sections is? So activity monitor is pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I'm going to do that.
Perfect. Thank you.
So the first one, I think it's pretty self-explanatory, and the results overwhelmingly show that activity monitoring is pretty important to these parents. So I'll just move on to the next one. The next feature was about sharing content, and the full question was worded in a way where we asked, how important do you think it is for your child to be able to create their own content, to upload it, and to share it with other children? And this came across as not very important. So most of the responses are below the third option.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is about being able to control how much time the child spends in the platform. This also came across as pretty important. We thought most of the responses are either very important or extremely important. So this feature I want to cross-reference with another survey we did, where we did qualify the user to have a child in the hospital. Those results aren't in here, and that's because the number of responses was so low. It was only 4 people. But one of the most interesting things that came out from that survey was that when the parent thinks of whether time limits are important in the hospital's entertainment digital platform, because that's what we asked the parent to think about, they said time limits were not important at all. So being in the hospital context makes this issue a non-issue. Parents don't care about time limits. And I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. When your kid's not feeling well, you just want to have them take their mind off things. It's not like they can be outside running around and playing anyway.
Right.
So that makes sense.
Okay. So moving on to number 4. This question was one of the more experimental questions. And we called the feature Conversation Starter, and this was inspired by something in Amazon Free Time, where the platform will provide the parent with discussion prompts or questions related to the content that the child has viewed. And it's to promote conversation between the parent and the child. So this didn't get a very good reception, and I kind of think it was hard to present the value of this in the question, in a single question. So most people thought this was only slightly important. It's pretty mixed results overall. So we're not taking any solid conclusions from this response. The next one, number 5, blocking content. This was pretty important to mostly everybody. So
looks like you had one respondent that didn't care too much, but the rest of them felt pretty strongly. Yeah.
And then the last one was also an experimental feature. And the wording here, I'll have to explain the wording. So we did a literature review where a couple of us read some published research about best practices for parental controls. And what we found was that a lot of the advice given to parents in the past has focused on the parent policing their child usage in the platform, placing restrictions, using controls. And what we're seeing is that the latest research says that advice is kind of obsolete. And what instead parents should do is to engage with the child about whatever content they're viewing or reading. So having conversations about that content, helping the child understand what they're looking at, and and having the parent discuss their rules and expectations about what they think is responsible media usage. So the question was, it was two parts. We asked the parent whether they have ever had a conversation with their child about their expectations and rules about media usage, and 95% of the parents said yes. So that's something a lot of parents think about. And then the next question is where we asked them to rate if there was a feature that helped them do that. So we asked if your child's favorite digital media platform had a feature to help your child understand your expectations and rules about responsible media usage, how important would you consider this feature? And so this came across as pretty important from the results we see here. So
that's interesting. Are there platforms out there that you think do a good job of this? I mean,
no, I don't think that new research is referenced a lot. I think parents are still hearing the old research, so there really is nothing, I think, that helps parents in this factor, except maybe that Amazon free time conversation starter. That's the closest thing I can think of that addresses this issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a tough one, but definitely worth considering. I mean, I think the biggest challenge is going to be having the parent. Sadly, the biggest challenge is having the parent go in and set these things up ahead of time. I think if this was a long-term use tool, and they were going to have their children on it for more than 3 to 5 days, the possibility. But most of our patients, most patients are kind of average in the hospital 3 to 5 days. Knock on wood, right? And so stuff like this can be a little bit of a challenge. Might be something we could do with some nice defaults though, and just let parents know that it's available. Mm-hmm. It's a very interesting idea. Something I'll think about some more for sure.
Yeah, so we definitely wanted to pass along this research and some of the published, some of the insights that I was talking to you about. But what we take away from this data for our project specifically is we want to be able to focus on two things from here. One is activity monitoring and blocking content, since overwhelmingly those two things seem to be pretty important. The time limits is something we don't need to address because of the hospital context, and we know parents don't care about time limits here. And then the two experimental features, conversation starters and then responsible usage helper, that's just I feel it's a little bit out of scope for us to think about that. And also to be able to design for that, we need the input of children, and we just don't have, I don't think we'll have the resources to be able to work with children. We're just focusing on parents. So
that makes sense. Those are good focusing points for your team. I agree with that. I would also say the time limits probably would be much more valuable if and when we move beyond the hospital space and into other areas. I know that as a parent myself, I have other tools that I use to set time limits on electronic devices for my kids. So yes, outside of a hospital is pretty valuable. In a hospital, I could see why the results kind of came middle of the road like they did. But this is great research. Thank you.
Sure. So any other questions? That's it for what I wanted to share from the survey data.
No, this is great. Thank you.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out how to stop sharing my screen. Are you guys still seeing it? Hello?
aiming for the rest of our time together. This is that in a little bit more detail than the past. Basically, the end goal will be we want to create some wireframes and then move into high fidelity, do a usability test on them with interactive prototypes, and then based on the usability testing results, present at least one more iteration before we give you our final results in September. So that is the high-level view of the goal. Here are what you can expect from us in the next several meetings that we'll be having with you on our every other Thursday schedule. It's crazy, our time has gone by so fast, but that's as many as we have left.
Yeah, it's moving quick.
Yeah. So this just puts, so we're on the same terms where we're going to be. We are going to be focusing, like Gary said, on the parental account onboarding process and the parental feature setting page, the front-end user interface. The execution of the design will follow the look and feel of the upcoming release, which you were kind enough to share with us. Thank you. Our key objectives are to create the UI for parental features for the client to consider building the features out. And our marketing objectives. This is what I reached out to you about, Jared. If there was a different way we wanted to put this was how I envisioned it to be. Zod is a child-friendly entertainment platform providing safer content for patients in hospitals. We are targeting parents, although we understand that Zod's primary target is hospitalized children, but for our purposes, we are targeting parents.
Mm-hmm.
The scope, we will create pages that will be designed in a responsive format and each page will go through the wireframe phase, initial design phase, and final design phase. These are the outline of pages we expect so far to do. The parental account onboarding process will have a sign-up page, a login page, and then as of yet an unknown number of onboarding pages with explanation of the parental features. And those features will include the age-based filtering, content flagging, and content blocking. Does this sound, or do you have any questions about this part, Jared?
Yeah, I guess I hadn't really thought too much about the difference between content filtering and content blocking. It sounds like you guys are treating them, or you're thinking of them as two different things.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we could just talk a little bit about the differences there. Would you really want to block specific content types like games, or would it just be age range, which is kind of what we're doing with filtering?
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what we mean by the scope, if this could just be specific games. I think what I was thinking, at least, of the difference between these two was this one is preemptive, so a parent can go in and from the get-go say, I don't want these types of content available for my children. That would be blocking. And then flagging would be reactive. So content has been allowed, but as they use Zot, they realize, I'm not so crazy about this one. I'm going to flag this. And then either it blocks from there on, or they flag it and report it as inappropriate or something like that. So reactive versus preemptive.
Okay, and then filtering is just straight age-based, presentation of what's rated as appropriate or not.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Which that's already built in. This isn't a new feature we're proposing. This is already built into Zot.
Thank you.
And then, did you have any questions, or does this part make sense? The onboarding.
No, yes, this makes complete sense.
Okay, awesome. We decided to focus on the app itself and what we could do in there. I know we had talked about the marketing collaterals and that there was a need for that, but we decided not to focus on that for this one. And we won't be doing the actual development and coding of the pages. For our deliverable formats, we expect that this will be what we want, that we will be able to provide with you at the end. We will need to work out exactly what would be the best way to get that to you and the resolution you would want. I don't know if off the top of your head you would know, but we can discuss that further as time goes on.
Sure, yeah.
As in general, we will of course all be pitching in, but Miyuki is our design lead and Joyce will be one of the key designers. And when it comes time to do the usability test, Gary's going to lead that project. And Miyuki attached a couple other, the 3 competitors that we studied last quarter, and then just for us to reference some of the visuals that you already shared. And then probably the most important part, how we're going to tell if what we've done has been worth it. Our measure of success will be the usability test, and the results of that will tell us how effective our designs were, and hopefully we can make it that much better with 1 round of revisions.
Okay, so I guess my main question then is about the deliverables. We talked last time about about marketing collateral, flyers, things like that. Looks like you've moved that to out of scope, and in scope you've got kind of patient or parent onboarding. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you yeah.
So,
Parental
yes,
okay.
the parental on within the app.
Okay, so this is similar in that you would be talking about the how-to and the benefits, but it would be within the app. Is that what you're thinking here?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a little bit little disappointed to see the marketing collateral go, the flyers and paper materials, that because I think that's really top of funnel.
Mm-hmm.
You need a way to get people onto the platform, and then only once they're on the platform can we start to move them through the funnel by convincing them of the value of the product and talking about the features. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll either way, I mean, we'll need to generate that collateral. So the
Mm-hmm.
marketing collateral.
Yeah, I agree that the research definitely showed that exactly what you said, that is an important piece.
Yeah.
For our skill set, I think we could deliver something more polished on this part than we could on this one. Okay. So that's why I decided to focus on this.
Okay, fair enough.
And Jared, so our decision to...
Any other questions about this?
No, this looks good. Very clean.
Okay, awesome. Anything else from the UCI team for Jared or for discussion?
Yeah, I did want to talk briefly about the usability testing, and I want to make sure we have a strategy to make sure we get the number of users we need. So
what's the timing on that one more time? I know it's in that list, that if you want to just flip back to it, or Maria, if you join.
Yeah, so we were hoping to do usability testing in mid-August, starting August 13th through the 24th.
Okay. Yeah, the reason I ask is we're preparing to relaunch with a couple different hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
And so in an ideal world, we would relaunch with the newer updated platform, and we would have a big push to have users on the platform, and that would be a perfect opportunity to get feedback from all those users and have that usability testing for within that group. But I think from a usability testing, from your perspective, you actually don't want you don't need app users. You just need an audience that you can show mocks to and things like that. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah. Well, my concern is whether you care about the users, whether users see the Zot platform, or if I'm not wording this right, but can we show the mock-ups to anybody, or does the user have to be a trusted user who's not gonna like talk about what they see? Or
yeah, I think we can pick if we're talking about end users, patients and parents.
Yeah.
If we pick them from from one of the two hospitals that we're going to be rolling out with, and maybe even preempt the rollout with a survey and some questions, some user testing, where they can actually see some of these things before we launch, that might be fine. My big concern with sharing this out, is going beyond the hospital communities that we've already been working with. So we would just need to stick to those two hospitals. But I think we can certainly find plenty of participants at two different hospital locations. So
okay.
I feel comfortable with that. Yeah, typically we're just a little bit. We wouldn't want to put something in front of a hospital community that isn't already that we're not already working with, that we haven't already shared the platform information with, because we wouldn't want to confuse or muddle the message. But if the hospital staff is already, working with us, and they've already seen the product and are on board already, then showing it to or showing versions of it to patients and parents would be okay.
Okay. One of the ideas we came up with was whether we change the branding of the prototypes we come up with, where the person looking at it wouldn't know it's soft. If we did that, would it not matter to you who we showed it to?
Yeah, I think that would be, if we're going to go outside those two hospitals, then that would be a good step to take. Yes.
Okay.
Let's. Why don't we start with the initial expectation that we'll find participants from the two hospital groups. We've got a lot of traction with them. There's a lot of excitement from their staff, and they can help us find willing participants.
Okay.
And if at that point, if we still are having challenges, then we can explore that second option.
Okay. So what if I come up with a blurb that you could share and then direct the users to me to schedule?
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
All right. Because I like to have everything scheduled in advance, because it takes time to set up the resources to do that test. So I'll do it. I'll go with that. That's it for me.
Great.
Okay, great. And Jared, just out of curiosity, are you in a position where you can tell us the two hospitals you're looking at for the rollout?
Maybe later this week. Let me just.
That's fine. I understand.
The T's are crossed and I's are dotted, and then we'll share that stuff.
Sounds good. Okay. Well, I think that's all we have for tonight. Thanks again for your time, Jared. And as always, just let us know if you have any other questions for us on Slack.
Great. Good job, everyone. This looks good progress as usual, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you again next week. In the meantime, Gary, if you want to send me over that blurb, I'll start circulating it. And Maria, I owe you our one-liner, so I'll get that over to you tonight.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Jared.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Okay,
Bye.
Bye.